I'm
Okay,
excited.
I'm very excited. Whew. Hello, everybody. Welcome to 10% More Savage, the podcast hosting women coaches, coaches from the LGBTQ plus community, sharing wins, introducing each other to other badass coaches. And we're here today with April Flaten. She is would you say strength and language coach? How do you put it?
I I'd call it movement and language coach.
Movement,
Yes.
encompassing even more than just
Yes.
strength. Movement and language coach. I'm really excited to talk to you today and hear more about what you do and who you are as a coach. I only know you a little bit and I can't wait to hear more stories.
Yay. Thanks for having me, Jodi.
Thanks for agreeing to be here and share your most savage stories. I really kind of want the inside scoop. So I encourage you to let loose and let us know.
I'm excited. I love that your podcast is 10% more savage. And as I've been thinking about you doing your podcast, I imagine the word savage is up for interpretation, um, depending on how you defined your savagery. And I like that I imagine there's lots of different kinds of savage that you've heard about from people already.
That is a very good point. I think that we can all show up to savagery in our own way. And I think that's a beautiful point that you make. Tell me what you're doing currently and
Current,
what is movement and language coaching?
yeah. Currently, I am coaching at a gym here in Minnesota called My Five Fitness. My Five Fitness is where I consider the start of my coaching career. So I'm very happy to be actually back there now. And so I'm coaching classes and doing onboarding for them, which is a lot of fun. I like onboarding because I do get to specifically coach movements to people who have some knowledge or sometimes zero knowledge of some of the movements that we generally do. So I love coaching the movement there. And I'm also doing one-on-one language and story work sessions that I learned. I just finished up my level 2 certification for Enlifted.
Nice.
And so I am with that style of coaching. It's one-on-one, like helping people understand the language that they're using that's either holding them back or building them up. And so we explore different phrases and stories that they have in their lives with this language coaching, and we shift it to work for them. And so those are the two main things that I'm really excited about. I also have a podcast, which is it's called Fandom Fit. I'm a big Harry Potter fan, and so I we'll get into the full story of that in just a bit. But we're connecting fandom topics like your Harry Potter, Star Wars, The Office, anything that has lots of fans and the stories involved with that. We're connecting that to fitness topics. Me and my two co-hosts. So those are the things that are very, for me right now.
Awesome. Tell me more about the movement. You like introducing people that are new to it to what you cover there in your gym's philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
What does that look like?
So I studied exercise science in college, and when I graduated, I immediately wanted to get into the industry and coach people and train people to move well. And so human movement is fascinating to me. I really love watching people move and seeing how we can adjust their movement so that they can move better and more comfortably. As humans, movement is the way we interact with our environment. And from your everyday tasks, whatever, like getting out of bed or, cleaning or exercise or finding, or, dance. All of that is like your ability to move through your environment with strength and efficiency is very valuable. That's my opinion there. And so it started, I was a cross country runner, and then decided to go into exercise science. And again, like I said, I started training right away. So like watching humans move and helping them move better is super fascinating to me. So at the gym, that My Five Fitness has all, like, since I've been there, they've been the owner now and one of the main coaches, a couple of the main coaches are very, very well-versed, smart in movement as well. So it's been really great to learn from them. Shout out to Andrew Franz, Chris King, DJ Hillier. DJ also has a great podcast. So I've learned a lot from them, and that's a great example of the whole rule of you're going to be like the 5 people you hang around the most. You know that rule?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm very happy to be back in a community and on a team with them to continue learning about movement and fitness. And so from the beginning, when we first started going to, my husband and I, when we first started going to My Five, both of us saw how deeply and how valuable Chris and DJ and Andrew saw movement. And it was really great to be around that. And that's one of the things that continued my fascination with human movement. I learned little bits and pieces from all of them. And, they're still in business. They're still going strong down in Lakeville, Minnesota, which is where they're at. And so it's great to be back there and take all the knowledge that I've learned since and bring it back in there. I say that because I started at My Five in about, I believe, 2013, coached there for a bit. And then my husband and I moved out to the West Coast for about 5 years. And I just, about a year ago, moved back to Minnesota. So that's why I say move, like now it's great to be back there. So Anyway, I don't know if that answered your question or not.
It did. And I like that the focus on the way you move in the gym is in a global way to improve people's lives on a daily basis, like you said. I'm a MoveNat trainer, and that's what that is all about. And so that's why I asked, what does that look like for you in the gym? How do you make it globally applicable, the movement that actually happens in the gym?
Yeah, the way I do it is I'll teach the basics of any movement that we have in the gym and see how a client is moving. And then we'll try 2 to 4 other variations on the position. For example, a squat. A squat could be feet at hips width or feet slightly wider than hips width. And it's going to depend on a number of things, what's going to be most comfortable for the client. Squatting, I personally love squatting, and I think it's an extremely applicable skill. And so when I am coaching something like that, to take it, what we do in the gym and find what works the best for the coach, the client, is my focus in the gym. Like, I make small adjustments. Okay, try your feet here. Okay, try this position with your chest and shoulders. Okay, let's see how we can adjust it so that you're comfortable in every squat. And that being said, there are different variations even still, depending on what you're doing, what your goal is for the squat, right? Is it a front squat? Is it a back squat? Are you picking up a bag of dog food from the ground to get onto your shoulder to carry out, right? Like, there's a real world example. So applying the slight variations and building the foundations off of what feels good and stable and strong for the client is what I look for and what I teach. Like, teach that here's the principle and these are the things that are important for it. And then any variation thereof, remember the principles and to feel strong and to apply that in and outside of the gym. And then also, I used to, we followed Kelly Starrett for a long time. We've got Supple Leopard books. That's one that my husband and I really love. And so we learned a lot from that and mobility WODs. And that spoke to me because it was at the time, it was a different way that I had ever heard of to look at exercise and movement and mobility. It wasn't just go kill yourself in a workout. Like, if we're talking about savagery in this case, like too much savagery in a workout can be detrimental for a number of reasons. And so the way Kelly Starrett was talking about learning and applying the mobility and movement was very autonomous. It was, hey, every human being should understand and learn how to be able to move and take care of themselves on their own. And I was like, yes, who else is going to take care of our body except for us and ourselves, right?
Right.
Nobody's going to take care of April's body better than April is. Same with Jodi. Nobody's going to take care of Jodi's body better than Jodi is. And granted, it's good to get help. It's good to get input and expertise. And also, like, you're the one that knows the most about your body, and to be able to choose and understand and listen to it really well and say, okay, today I need to do couch stretch because I've been sitting a lot and I want to counteract that, and I want to have strong hips and I want my back to stop hurting. Then it's like, okay, I've been on my feet all day. My feet are sore and tired. There is something that you can do for that. Take your shoes off, walk around barefoot, get a lacrosse ball in there. Movement fascinates me. And if in every sense of the word, and I think there's either episode 1 or 2 of my podcast where I think it's episode 1. I think it's our intro episode where we're like, movement in every sense of the word. If your body's not moving, then it's like negation's acknowledged here, right? If your body is not moving, then it's not doing its purpose, right? And similarly, if you're feeling stagnated or stuck in your life, career, relationship, anything, like, there's a lack of movement. So movement in every sense of the word is important, not just like physiological body movement, but what choices are we making during our day to move our lives forward too?
Yes, that makes perfect sense. And I can appreciate that you have those formula in your head and that gift to be able to assess someone's movement and ferret out what's going on and give them adjustments that work for them, because you're giving them the tools so in the future they have a resiliency to be their own coach in their own body, the experts on their own body, like you just said. So that's sounds like that focus is really important for people that want to have a larger view of what fitness is than just lifting heavy.
Yep.
So I was going to ask, how does the language coaching that you do, I'd like to hear more about what that is, and does it tie into your other type of coaching at all?
There is a connection. I would love to build something where they're connected more. Like right now, the connection between movement coaching and language coaching for me is, let's get in a good mindset first, use our language to create some mantras and affirmations, use those throughout your workout or throughout your mobility. And that's honestly the simplest way to connect them. And so I've done that a little bit. Most of my language coaching right now, I've been able to focus on some goal setting. And I think that's a really great way to introduce this language coaching in general, because it's so far that I've heard, because I just started learning about the power of language about 2 years ago. And by the way, I realized that the other day, that it's only been 2 years since I started learning about this stuff. I was like, wow, that's seems like it's been longer, and look how much more fun, exciting stuff I get to do with it. So anyway, that was a fun realization.
Has it manifested powerfully in your life? Is that why it seems like it's been longer?
Yes. Yes.
Tell me about that. What happened 2 years ago that brought that to you, and what were some of the power? Some of the power that came out of that?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. Over the last 2 years, there's been lots and lots of change. It's been a roller coaster in the best sense. And so 2 years ago, 2 years ago in June, I did the Strong Coach program, and it was the beta program. So that's a coaching, personal and business development program. They lead coaches to create 6 and 7 figure businesses. And when I did it, I was literally the very first go around of people that did it. It was 8 weeks long. Mike Bledsoe led all of it, and there were 6 people, 6 coaches in the program. And I was a coach that had no clients. I was a coach that was not coaching. And that was very frustrating to me. I'd been living in California for a few years, and I had been bouncing around to a couple of different gyms with little success. And as I reflect on it, for a number of reasons, and without getting into all of those reasons, the basics of it is that I didn't know exactly what I wanted, or how to respect my own boundaries and skills, and basically like set myself up for a good position and a place to be. So I bounced around to a couple of different gyms, 2 of which closed. One of them closed, and I moved on to a second gym and coached at that second gym for a while. That was not the right place for me. So I moved on and started working at a chiropractic clinic as a front desk assistant, which, since y'all can see my face right now, like,
I can feel it from here.
I had worked in chiropractic before, but as a rehab specialist, which is another place where I learned intricacies of spinal movement and how the body can and does and should move around the spine. And so that was really interesting. So I thought that this new place, I'd get to apply some of those skills as well. Very, very few times did I get to apply my coaching and movement practice at that clinic, because mainly I was there to schedule people.
Was that discouraging?
Yes. I was 100% in survival mode, which means I was focused on just like get the bare minimum to get by, which is, I imagine many people listening have had that thought before. I just need to get by. I just need to get by. So I did the Strong Coach. I got into the Strong Coach, and
how did you find them?
Yeah, I saw Mike Bledsoe's Instagram post. And what intrigued me was that he was saying that there's something missing in the fitness and coaching industries. And I was like, yeah, there totally is. And I didn't know what it was. I just knew that I agreed with what he was saying. I didn't know where the hole in the coaching industry was. I just knew that the focus, like what I perceived is that the focus of the quote unquote fitness industry was about whatever is in the latest muscle magazine, which often has 0 to do with health. Okay, not 0, but maybe like 5% to do with health. and so anyway, I agreed with there's something missing from the fitness industry, and so I filled out the little application, got on a discovery call. And during the discovery call, Mike Bledsoe was asking me about, you know, why do you think you haven't had success in going to these different gyms and coaching? And I didn't have an answer. I didn't actually know. I had no idea what it was. And then he mentioned, just got a little heat wave there as I'm retelling this. Then he mentioned that it often has something to do with your relationship with your father. Bam, like waterworks. I just started bawling. Again, I don't know why. And all of a sudden, Mike was like, I think you're ready for this program and this kind of coaching. I'm going to bring you into the program to do this first beta version of the Strong Coach. And I was like,
oh my gosh. He went straight for the depths.
Yeah. And just the fact that I imagine that part of it was the fact that that elicited an emotional response, and at the same time I was able to be vulnerable like that, which was pretty cool. And that was very interesting for me because I'd followed Mike Bledsoe on Barbell Shrugged and whatnot. And then I was like, wow, I get to work directly with him. So that was really exciting.
Yeah, super exciting. And he somehow in that small amount of time, he made you feel safe.
Yes.
And the fact that you could break down like that showed that you were ready for what he wanted to do. So it was more than, you know, nuts and bolts coaching for coaches.
Right, exactly. And that was, and so speaking of the power that you're asking about, what was powerful for me 2 years ago. And so I started the Strong Coach program, and the most powerful part of it for me was the first half of it, the getting my own house in order and understanding what control I actually do have over my own life. Like I was living someone else's story. I was living a story that had been passed on to me by, society, my parents. Like, this is how life is supposed to be. Go to school, get a good education, get a job, work for someone else, work for 40 years. That's how life was supposed to be. And so I was trying to do that. And at the same time, it didn't speak to me. It didn't resonate with me. It always felt weird and forced when I was living that story. And so in doing the Strong Coach, some of the first things that we did then is vision casting and goal setting and literally painting the picture of how we want our lives to be, exactly how we want it. Nobody else gets any say. This is what April wants for April. And I was like, no one's ever asked me to detail it out that specifically, which was really fun to think about. But it's that thing where you're always dreaming. I'm always like dreaming of what I want, and I had never written it down. And so along with writing it down, and there was another module of the Strong Coach at that time. The Strong Coach is now 90 days, 12 weeks. So again, it was only 8 weeks when we started.
And that was 2 years ago?
Yeah, yep. In June, yeah. So, so yeah, like 27 months ago. And
was that your first introduction to what you refer to as story work?
That was my first introduction to the power of our language.
Can you explain what that means?
Yeah. Not specifically the story work and language work, but simply the power that our language has.
I see.
In our lives. And so again, the first thing was being specific about what I want.
Okay.
For me. And the second thing was we had a module where we did an exercise called Start, Stop, Continue. It's simple. You make 3 lists. Here's a list of the things I need to stop for me to take another next step forward or big steps forward in my goals. Here's the things that I'm already doing, so I'm going to continue doing those. Those are already working for me. And then a start list. Here's what I need to start doing. So very simple concept. But still new to me.
And actually getting it down on paper?
Yes, getting it down on paper. And so from that exercise, Mike helped me create personal mantras. Mantra is an identity shaping statement. It's an I am fill in the blank of the thing that you want, right?
Okay.
So he took a phrase from my stop list, because I had written on my stop list, I had written, stop being afraid to do things.
That's big.
Yeah. And that's all I knew, is like, I only knew that I wanted to stop being afraid. And so my focus was on being afraid.
Mm-hmm.
And so he took that and he translated it into, I am a bold and courageous woman. And I was like, whoa.
How'd that feel?
That was cool. I was like, yeah, I am. Duh. Like, it was a duh moment for me, because I was like, yes, I am that. I have been brave in a number of situations. I'm going to start doing that again. So it was a simple switch from focusing on what I don't want to do to changing it into, this is who I am. Bold and courageous women may experience fear at times and still are able to take action. And so another mantra that came out of that is, I take action, because being afraid to do stuff gets me nowhere. Means I'm doing nothing, means I'm scared to do things. But a bold and courageous woman who takes action, that's me creating the identity that I want with these two sentences.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I mean by, this is the first time I was introduced to the power of language and mantras and affirmations. Was in the Strong Coach. I didn't yet know that it was that there were systems put in place already to do these kinds of switches and changes, until I finished the Strong Coach, and then later on did vocabulary, met Mark England, got some direct coaching from him, and did the Enlifted certifications as well. So before I knew what the systems were, I knew what the power was. So
how different of a person are you from 2 years ago?
I am growing a lot. I would say that the person I am today is an amplified version of who I was 2 years ago. Because 2 years ago, I decided to, I took the opportunity to do the Strong Coach and learn more about the industry that I wanted to be and who I wanted to be in that industry. And that was essentially a reawakening of, this is the things that I want and I love and I value, and I want to do those things in a certain way. The coaching, the movement, I like one-on-one, I like small group, I like the social and the connection aspect of coaching too. And again, the places that I had been in before, when I was trying to live someone else's story, I wasn't able to do that as well. So anyway, this reawakening into the things that I wanted, I was like, wow, this really is possible. And now, having continued to practice and learn and grow, I leveled up, right? like level 0 when I did the Strong Coach, and I finished the Strong Coach, and I was like level 1. And then I've gone through the Strong Coach program multiple times. I've mentored some other coaches through it. And so building up levels there, and I don't know what level I'm at now. I don't think that number is important. I do think that this group of coaches, including you, is I'm finally around the people that I want to be like, and I have the network of coaches that we always have each other to ask questions and look for support. And I had always wanted a coaching network, and I never knew I'd find it virtually. So
I'm not crying, you're crying.
Exactly.
Honestly, it sounds like I do like the leveling up analogy, but while you were speaking, I don't know if Shrek is a fandom. Does that
Totally.
count?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dream.
So we're talking onions here.
Yes.
Layers of onions. Because when you took off that first layer of I don't want to be afraid to do things, and then
Yeah.
it gets deeper to your heart, and
Yeah.
you're shedding those layers that are not true anymore. That was the
Yes.
image that came to my mind when you had a facepalm moment.
Yes.
He didn't have to explain it to you. Like,
Right.
well, how am I courageous? You know, you knew,
Right.
you already knew you were, and it was taking
Mm-hmm.
that veil off,
Mm-hmm.
and you just became unleashed, it sounds like.
Yeah, yes, exactly. On that note, do you want to come onto our podcast and talk about Shrek and layers of things?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Yay. I'm going to text my co-host in just a bit about that.
That would be great.
Awesome.
That's the perfect segue. So 2 years ago, you didn't have a podcast either, correct? So this
Correct.
is another thing that was unleashed on the world. How did that
Yes.
come forth?
Okay, so I had okay, so if we rewind all the way to the first time I thought, hey, it would be cool to do a podcast. That was more like probably 3 to 4 years ago. I don't have like an exact date. You know what? I might be able to look for the email. But anyway, I had emailed someone at Barbell Shrugged, and I said, I love what Barbell Shrugged is. You go around, you talk to cool people, and you share their stories. I want to do that too. Do you have any advice?
And that's where Mike Bledsoe came out of.
Actually, no.
No?
Well, at the time, that's not who I spoke to. Mike Bledsoe was one of the co-creators of Barbell Shrugged, the podcast.
Okay.
And so yes, that's one of the many things that he's done in the fitness industry is be a co-host of that podcast. So yes. Was that your question?
I was just making that connection because you had mentioned his name, and so I wanted to make that connection.
Yes, that's correct. So anyway, at the time, I had just emailed like info at Barbell Shrug, where I did their little contact us on their website. And I was like, hey, I love what you do. I really want to do something similar. What advice do you have for me? And someone, I don't remember who, I don't think it was any of the main hosts, but they responded pretty quickly, and they were just like, cool, you know what? That's fantastic. Like just get started, and you could totally you know, do something like that. It was a very the way I read it, it seemed very sincere, and also you know, not very specific, which I was like, cool, I got a response. Someone actually read my email and was like, yeah, go for it. So I first had that thought and sent that email, and I was like, okay, podcasting, cool. This could be a viable thing that I could do. Like, it was still very an infant in its idea. Fast forward to 2020, I always have to think about the dates. Like middle of 2019, beginning of 2019, probably. I was coaching in San Diego at a gym. Actually, Danny Rios used to own it. He hired me to come coach down there, and I met another friend named Lauren, who's also a Harry Potter nerd. And so this is where the inception or the beginning of the idea from the Fandom Fit podcast, my now podcast, came up. Lauren and I were sitting in a coffee shop, chatting about coaching ideas and hanging out a little bit in between classes. And we started to talk about like how we were talking about it came up as the Healthy Hollows, the Deathly Hollows, which is Harry Potter, which is one of the Harry Potter books. And she was like, if there's the Deathly Hollows, then we could create the Healthy Hollows, which is, you know, the 3 things that you value the most for your life and your health, and how do you address those every day. And that that episode is out on our podcast page, so you can check it out. And so then we started thinking about all of these other fandoms that we could tie into some kind of health topic. And we just brainstormed a bunch of them, and I wrote them all down, and I was like, do you really want to like podcast and like do this? And she's like, yeah, great. And I had some rudimentary, well, not rudimentary, some kind of random podcasting equipment that I had borrowed from someone. And so we started playing around with recording, and it, just for fun, and because we wanted to put out some easy, simple content for the gym that we were at. And so we were just playing around with it. And so continue to fast forward. I'm really excited about this idea. So I want to take it and run with it. So I wanted to check with Lauren, of course, because she was the one that came up with all these ideas with me. And she's like, you know what, take it and run with it. You're good. I'm working on other stuff. I was like, thank you. Woohoo.
Unleashed again.
Yes, exactly. And so I started just talking about it. I was like, this is my idea. I want to do a fandom and fitness and connect them and bullshit with all my with all my friends, and I kept telling people, and 2 people were the most excited to just about this idea. My friend Jasmine, who is a friend from college, one of my best friends from college, who lives in Colorado, and then Dave, who I was also coaching at the gym. And so again, continuing to fast forward, about a year ago, October, almost exactly a year ago, I moved out. I moved from California, drove across the country to get to Minnesota. And I was telling them about it, and I got to stop and see Jasmine in Colorado. And at one point, David texted me and was like, so are we going to do this podcast thing? And I was like, yes. Okay, hold tight. We'll figure something out. and
then, now you were separated by distance, all 3 of you.
Yes, exactly. We podcast on Zoom in 3 different time zones. So we make it work. And so Dave and Jazz were the most excited people to do it with me. So I got on a Zoom call with them, and I have a 10-year plan and goal for my podcast. I wrote it out. These are all the things that I want. I've listened to plenty of other podcasts that I really like, and these are the things that I'm excited about from that, and how I want to like I see that doing something like this is a number of things. One, creating community and connection, and an inclusive community and connection with our audiences, and also a very engaging, like we want to talk to everyone who's interested in like how can we serve and help you and have fun, right? And all the way to like how could this potentially get us into like Comic-Con or something, like I don't know, we could somehow be vendors there or something like that. I don't know. And then similarly, like Dave does some philanthropic work for orphanages in Mexico. So when we get to a point when our podcast is bringing in some income for us, we'll be donating to Dave's orphanages and things like that. So there's so much that can be tied into doing this podcast, and it can open up. And that's what I watched Barbell Shrug do. They traveled everywhere, and they went to the Alico barbell factory. I can't remember exactly where it is, somewhere in Europe. But anyway, travel all over the place, talk to cool people, have incredible experiences. And so those, like, I wrote all of this down in this 10-year goal, and I shared it with Dave and Jasmine. And I was nervous to do so. I was like, guys, okay, thank you. This is what I want to do. And they're like, great, let's do it.
Oh, I love that. It's a huge, expansive vision, and it encompasses so much and so much outside of yourself. It's not about what kind of Ferrari you want in 10 years. It was like this huge network of connection is the point. Yeah. That's fantastic.
And
I'd
that's,
love
I
to
like
hear that.
thank you. Yeah. I like that you bring up expansive. I had an interesting conversation one evening with Jasmine about how this well, again, truly it started with an idea between me and Lauren, and then again she was like, cool, yeah, take it and run with it. So then I was like, okay, cool, this is my idea, and I want help with it. I want to share it with my friends, and Dave and Jasmine were up for it. And then I had this one time, or this conversation with Jasmine, where I was like, okay, this is no longer just my thing. This is no longer just my project. This is our project now. And that was a really interesting shift for me, creatively and just in like expanding, in the sense of expansion and sharing things and being part of a team, and building something really cool. And so the shift was scary and great, because I was like, Jasmine, I had to take a deep breath and say, this is no longer mine, this is ours. And Jasmine was like, I am so glad you said that. I was like, oh, good. So it was, and Jasmine's one of my best friends, and Dave, only having known Dave for the last couple of years now, I'm very grateful that he's on our team too. He brings a completely unique perspective to everything. And we're three nerds talking about fandoms and fitness, and it's a ton of fun.
When you find the right chemistry, the team is more than the sum of its parts.
More than, absolutely. It's like multiplied.
Yes, it's exponential. And that sounds like everybody has that kind of energy. I want to hear more about, what does it mean? How do you fit in fandom and fitness for people that not even sure what that would look like or sound like?
Great question. I connect fandom and fitness because it's two things that I enjoy. I enjoy fitness. I enjoy movement, and fandoms make me happy. I smile and love the magic and imagination and worlds that are created. People put tons and tons of work into creating all of these fandoms. Not only like the Wizarding world and the Harry Potter universe, which is enormous, but look at what they've done with the Marvel universe. It's not, I mean, most of my knowledge of the Marvel universe is the cinematic universe. I know a little bit about some of the comics, and I'm learning more, especially now that I have a podcast about it. And so anyway, like the imagination and creativity is so fascinating for someone to build a world like this. And so for me, connecting the fandoms to the fitness is about taking one thing that you love because it's awesome and you found a connection to this fandom for some reason, and then connecting your health to it. So you've got this thing that you love and this thing that you value. Likely, I imagine most people value some sort of health, whatever that means. Again, you get to define that. But when you can make things happy and fun and excited to do, and negation and knowledge not an obligation, then you're going to want to do it more. I love another simple example. This episode is out now as well, is Dementors from the Harry Potter universe, our representation of depression. And so we put that out in May for Mental Health Awareness Month. And we said, hey, what a Dementor in Harry Potter is a soul-sucking creature, literally. Like, that's what they do. They suck your soul out, and then you're a shell of a human being. If that. That's the whole thing of Dementors, that's what they are. And so like we decided to do, what are the soul-sucking forces in your life? How do you recognize them? And the counter spell to a Dementor is something called a Patronus. It's the Patronus charm. And I was reading a little bit about what Patronus, like the language, the etymology of it, and it has to do with a guardian. And I was like, oh, like, so there's so much symbolism and connection that you can make with these stories. Like, you find a story that you love, you dive into it. How do I take parts of that story and make it work for me? How do I become the magic that I see, or how do I incorporate the magic that I see in these stories into my own life to make my own life more magical?
When you change your language, you're changing your neurology.
Yes.
You're changing things to the depth of how your brain works.
Mm.
And this is fascinating me, the connection between the real world, as you could say,
Mm-hmm.
and this imaginary world that's really not necessarily imaginary, but also with invented language.
Mm-hmm.
So you're bypassing parts of the brain that would normally fire,
Mm-hmm.
and you're adding a completely different element
Mm-hmm.
with the language and made up words that just, it's just, that's pretty huge, the effect that can have. I'm just now I'm really getting this impact of what you're doing, and it's this avenue that allows people to maybe go down a path that they've never felt access before.
Exactly.
Because it was other people's language and other people's labels. See, now that applies to everything in life, right?
Mm-hmm.
We want to go down our own path, and I don't want to use labels. I don't want to use a label you made up. I don't want to use a label that means a certain thing to me and means something else to somebody
Mm-hmm.
else.
Yeah.
And this is a whole new way to use language and labels and be on a path that you are helping create.
Yeah. And to see what intention and consciousness went into creating those worlds, and finding something in those worlds that resonates deeply with you, and then applying it to your life. Like, that's exactly it. As I wave my wand. Yeah, it's just it's the taking of the meaningful things and making them more meaningful to you, and then in that sense create a connection too. Like, we all have, and that's why I love the idea of podcasting, is because we all have stories. Mm-hmm. Stories are interesting. We learn from stories. Important information is passed down from stories, and so to take the stories that people have written for entertainment and fandom and for fun, and to just write and create something, and then weave it into your own story. This is why it's important this is why mental health is important, because those dementors are there. Like, they're there. Mm-hmm. And we have all the control in the world to cast our Patronus charm, to cast our guardian, the guardian of the things that are most important to us, to protect ourselves and reflect upon and understand ourselves, so that we can be there for what's important for us. And that being said, one of the big things that we talked about in that episode was we're not mental health professionals, we're not psychologists or psychiatrists, anything like that, and getting help is cool. Find some type of service to, like, a great Patronus is getting finding a counselor. Mm-hmm. Like, that's a fantastic Patronus. And so we put some resources for finding a counselor or a psychologist, or we put up some mental health hotlines and things like that in that episode too. So
that's really beautiful that you had a specific thing you wanted to talk about and you weren't afraid to talk about it, but also you can use analogies and word pictures that people can relate to
Mhm.
without sullying it with clinical words or
Right.
telling you what to do kind of thing. Because
Right.
somebody could definitely imagine seeking help as that very thing, the way you described it. And
Mhm.
it gives the person, the individual, the strength to move ahead in their own way
Mhm.
instead of the way that everybody told them to,
Right.
because
Right.
that's not easy. And so
Yeah.
I really like that it's a really nice safety avenue that you open up for people to connect with.
Mhm. Thank you. Yeah. One of the other really exciting, well, okay, it is exciting. For a long time, I want to be part of important conversations and I want to be part of solutions to things going on in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be an advocate and an ally. And I'll be honest, I don't always know how to do that well. And so podcasting is another avenue for me to learn a lot about people's stories and do research and understand how I can better support anyone that needs it. I I was an RA in college, and so that was my first adventure into being a resource and being a support system. And there's a lot of important conversations that need to be had out there involving all kinds of things, including equality, and among many other things, equality for women, LGBTQ, supporting all of those and that, and then Black Lives Matter as well. I want to be part of these conversations in a productive, supportive manner, and having a platform to do that, and having good conversations in the right um, supportive context, right? We can have these conversations and say, hey, what can we do? And then learn what actions we can take. I've always wanted to be a bigger part of these conversations, to learn more and be a better ally and supportive person. So I'm excited, and there, to be honest, there's I'm a little bit scared because it's new and some of it's very uncomfortable, or can be, and I'm here to learn. So I'm excited for you and this podcast that you're doing too. To listen to your conversations and continue to learn.
Thank you very much. I appreciate how you're using your unique perspective in a way that resonates with you, and that kind of passion and joy will resonate with others. And I'm really excited about what I'm doing too, because it resonates with me.
Good.
And I love that our paths are crossing and I'm meeting all these amazing people. And I'm really excited to share that from my perspective. And I really appreciate that we have the ability to reach out in the way that works for us.
Yes.
And that we all have our own origin story and traumas and challenges and strengths and benefits. And we all bring our unique recipe to reach others, because they all have their unique recipes too. And when you can connect with someone, especially a coach that's been through the same type of stuff and has the kind of strength that you want, that's not just a generic homogenized fitness trainer. This is like, here's my heart. You want me to show you how I did it?
Yeah.
And that's how I see coaching, and all this supportive atmosphere and the freedom to use new language and find new ways is so freeing. And I'm so glad that we're both on this path. I really appreciate you being here today. We're just about out of time. It flew by. I can't wait to hear a couple of those episodes that you brought up that I haven't missed, and I'll do my Shrek research.
Yes. I'm
And
about to text Jasmine and Dave. Thank you. Yes, thank you.
she has a great personality. It's going to be super fun.
Doesn't she? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I look forward to that. And I'll put your info in comments so
Wonderful.
that people can reach out to you. Are you're doing only in-person coaching for the strength coaching, right?
The movement coaching right now is primarily at the gym. If anyone out there is interested in a virtual coaching, I'm open to that too. My language coaching is via Zoom, just like this. And I'm also working on some group presentations for the language stuff, which I'm excited about. So I'm open to in-person or virtual, whether it be movement or language.
Awesome. That's so great. So if anybody out there wants to get in touch with April and hook up in a different way, please do that and find her podcast, and all her information is going to be below. I encourage everybody out there to find a coach if you have questions. And a coach can be anybody. Start with someone you admire, someone that you think is doing things like you might want to do things, and ask them how they do it. That's just getting a little bit of coaching, and then go from there. And find what you need. So both of us are available. Thank you, everybody, for being here. And we'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Jodi. Bye, everybody.